thumbs up.
No,
All
we're good.
right. Thank you.
Sounds good to me. Dori, would you like to lead us off, please?
I'm sure. I thought one thing that I would bring to us before we do the land acknowledgement was just a little piece of current events. Oftentimes, when folks think of Indigenous folks, they think of them in a past tense. And I just wanted to bring forward a couple of female runners. One is Jordan Marie Daniel, and the other one, just a minute, is Rosalie Fish. Has anybody heard of them? So these are two Indigenous women who have been running with red handprints on their mouths and on their legs. And they've been doing that to recognize the fact that there are so many missing and murdered Indigenous women. Rosalie recently, well, a year ago, ran a marathon and ran for 26 other women. So I just wanted to start us off with that as a reminder that this is one of the reasons that we do land acknowledgement, to counter people being erased. And so with that, who would like to do the land acknowledgement? Anybody want to read it?
Everybody got it in email a little while ago.
Yeah.
All right, Spencer, would you like to do it?
Pardon?
Dori or Spencer, would you like to do it? I did not print it out.
I'm happy to, thank you. The Portland metro area, including Beaverton, rests on traditional village sites of the Kalapuya, Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, Clackamas, bands of Chinook, Tualatin, Molalla, and many other tribes who made their homes along the Columbia River and its tributaries. We recognize the systemic policies of genocide, relocation, and assimilation that still impact many Indigenous and Native American families today. We thank the descendants of these tribes for being the original stewards and protectors of these lands for thousands of years.
Thank you, that was beautiful. Joy, shall we begin with the approval of minutes?
Yes, did everyone receive their emailed copy of the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, great. Now, does anyone have any corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, they stand approved as read. They're assent. Paolo, you're up.
And Paolo is going to be our first participant in public participation.
Yay.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right, that's right. I have some news to share, and your chairs thought it might be best to throw this right at the very beginning. I am, you know what, let's do it this way. Can y'all see that? That's an ultrasound. So I am going to be a father very soon, and we are expecting sometime in beginning in November. And so I'm sharing this because I have so much love for y'all and I want you to know, but I'm also sharing this because this will mean that I will probably be out for some time. The expected due date's November, but the doctor told us technically once you hit 30 weeks, it could come anytime, i.e. right now or 5 minutes from now. So I'm learning a lot, but that might mean that I'm out for quite a bit of time. And so I know we have a lot going on, ending the year, elections, getting new folks onto A-Track. I will be working out what that looks like with Alexis as well as the rest of the team. I want to especially appreciate your chairs who have been super supportive during this time and will continue with the rest of that process throughout the year. But yeah, I'm going to be a dad to a little girl sometime soon here. And also I want to give a shout out to Joy. It's back there, but the mail came in today, and then I got a call from downstairs at Repro in the mail saying, Paula, there's some diapers here for you. So thank you so much, Joy, for those diapers. I'm learning real quick that there's not just one size fits all diaper, and numbers there. one does not mean 1 year. It means something totally different.
Yeah.
So I'm learning here. But yeah, a child is going to be on the way soon, which means I'll be out for a little while, but stay tuned.
Oh, Paolo, thank you for sharing that happy news. That starts us out on such a joyous note, and we need a lot of joy in our lives these days.
Well,
So
yeah,
thank you for that. We're absolutely elated. Absolutely elated.
I am too. Thank you. So for the other piece, what's next? I kind of got distracted here. Oh, public participation, that's right. We do have a lot of guests with us today. So folks who are with us here in the attendees list, I'll go ahead and I'll turn on your mic for the allow to talk. You will have 3 minutes or 10 minutes total. But I will, nothing fancy here. I just put on a timer on my phone and I'll have it here right in front of you so you can see it. But I'm going to first go to Ashley. Let me get my timer here. Ashley, welcome.
Thank you.
Go
All
ahead.
right, hi everyone. This is Ashley Hartmeyer-Prigg. I was just coming here tonight. I'm a candidate for Beaverton City Council for the runoff happening in 3 weeks. Ballots went out today, so please make sure you vote. But I'm also just here because the work you do is so important. And so I want to thank you for your service on this committee. And I'm excited just to listen in on your conversation this evening. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you for coming, Ashley.
Let's go over to, I have Kevin Henway.
Paolo, thank you for recognizing me. I don't need to speak to the commission tonight. I'm a Beaverton resident, communicating with staff on some other matters, and I was just interested in observing your meeting. See what the commission is. Thank you.
Wonderful and welcome. I see that we had a few phone numbers that were there and then now they are not there. So if they enter again in a little bit, we'll try to catch them near the end of the meeting. But I will go ahead and turn it over to, just kidding, I'm turning it over to myself. We're gonna do some liaison updates. I see we have a lot of officers.
Hello?
Yeah.
Sorry, this is Amy from the VAC. I thought I was supposed to talk during the community input. Is that still when you wanted?
This would be a perfect time. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
great,
for,
thanks, because I hopped
coming.
off our meeting to come to visit you guys. Hi, so I'm Amy and I'm on the, actually everybody's frozen. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Okay, great.
Can hear you, Amy.
Okay, I'll just keep going then. So I'm on the Vision Advisory Board, which is one of the boards and commissions with Beaverton City. And every 5 years, our committee works with the community to identify priorities that are most important. You guys probably heard about the community vision and that there's a community vision revision going on right now. It's been in our city updates a little bit. Sorry, I just got distracted by the chat for a second. So I'm here tonight because it is time for our 2021 community vision. And we wanted to let you know that we already have a survey that's out that we would like you to take and also to share with people in your community. This is our very first survey that's out, and it's supposed to just get a general sense of what is on the minds of the community as we go into the outreach. The vision committee is really focused on this time, making sure that we reach underrepresented communities. So in the future, we would also love to have your support in looking at our outreach strategy or questions that we're asking to the community and any feedback you have about our process. So I'd love to hear if anybody had thoughts or if you want to reach back out to me I'll give my email, and I'll also maybe Paolo could connect them with Shannon, who's our staff liaison right now, if anybody has any more thoughts they want to give to us. So I'll drop the direct link to the survey, and then I'll also drop the link to the page about Beaverton Vision. But does anybody quickly have any questions about the vision or anything like that?
Can you tell us a little bit about what it is? I don't think I know. I mean,
Okay.
I should know because I could walk downstairs and talk to Suba, but
Sure. Okay.
but I'd like to.
Okay. I was wondering.
Hear it from a source outside the home.
Okay, you had the same last name, so I was wondering if you knew Suba. Okay, so the vision is basically about every 5 years. It's something that is put together and it guides what the city works on over those 5 years. And the way that it's put together is by doing a lot of community outreach and asking folks what they want to see in the community in our future. And then in the past, I think this is about the third or second iteration. In the past, then it's been broken up into little teams, and then the different members of our committee have gone and looked at different sectors of the feedback that we've gotten. So one of the things that was on the last vision was a vibrant downtown. So you might know that the city really focuses on doing a lot of things downtown and making downtown look nice. And part of that was related to that suggestion from the community that people wanted a vibrant downtown. So that would be how I would explain what the vision is. And I know Councilor Hasan has also worked on a visioning process with THPRD. And I actually just joined this year, the VAC. So I'm new to this, and it's the first outreach, the first vision in the last 5 years. So everybody who's on the VAC right now is somewhat new also to the process as well.
Go ahead, everyone.
Thank you so much, Amy. And sorry again for skipping over that.
That's okay. I think Spencer has their hand raised. Did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, just quickly, Amy, thank you. Does the Vision Advisory Commission focus solely on downtown?
No, not at all. That's just the one example I can remember from the past vision, but there's also been items around like even public safety and wider issues around like parks and nature and just anything that people have on their mind that they really want to see in the city. That's what we want to hear. And every process within the city, at least that I know of in the past, has always suffered from not really including communities that are typically underrepresented, which is why they're underrepresented. So that's something that we really would like to change this time around with our outreach. So hopefully we'll have even more inclusive categories of what people are interested in or need to see in the community.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thanks.
Of course. I see that we have somebody calling in by phone. Hello, guest 161072, and I won't repeat the rest because I can't see the rest of it, but would you like to share today? All right. Oh, there you go. Looks like you unmuted yourself and you just left.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on then to the next piece. As I was saying earlier, we have a lot of officers with us today. So we'll go ahead and go with you all first. Welcome back, Chief Groshong. Hello, Lieutenant Kingsbury, and hello, Captain Julfis. Hello.
Hello. I can start, Chief, first if you,
Yes.
unless you want to. Okay. I just want to introduce myself to everybody that is in the meeting that doesn't know me. I'm Matt Kingsbury. I am the Community Services Division Lieutenant. I actually took the place of Lieutenant Stellingwerf recently. So you're going to see a combination of me and Captain Julfs attending these meetings. I primarily will be attending the Diversity Advisory Board meetings, but life happens. If Captain Julfs happens to be busy, I'll join you guys. And just a little bit about myself, just so you guys kind of know my background. I actually started volunteering with the city in 1995 as a police cadet. I did that for 5 or 6 years. I was a police reserve officer for almost 4 years. And then I've been a sworn police officer for 18 years now. I've done everything from I rode a motorcycle. I was a field training officer. I was heavy into DUI enforcement. I was a drug recognition expert at one time, involved in the department's hiring. One of the things that I'm pretty proud that I was involved in was I was the officer assigned to the group that was responsible for developing and implementing the Be Sober program in our courts, which is the intensive DUI supervision program. It basically gives repeat offenders a more structured ability to maintain their sobriety and avoid jail, which I'm pretty excited that I was the officer involved in that. So that's a little bit about myself. Does anybody have any questions for me? I don't necessarily have anything to share other than that.
Are you replacing Stellingwerf?
Yes, I am. Lieutenant Stellingwerf went to the patrol division as a day shift patrol lieutenant, and I came to community services.
Thank you.
Anything
You were
else?
saying, Lieutenant, that you will be with the Diversity Advisory Board, and Captain, you'll be with us. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Does that also include, is it Captain Kramer?
Sergeant Kramer is the community services sergeant, so he works under me. He could occasionally attend these meetings as well.
Cool. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you both for attending and being a resource to us. We appreciate that.
Not a problem.
Captain, Chief?
I'll go next, Chief, if that's all right.
Yep.
I'm Alan Julfs. I'm the new community resources. Well, I'm actually the administrative bureau captain for BPD. And one of my assignments is community resources. So Matt and I work very closely together. Sergeant Kramer and I work closely together. A little bit about me. This is year 23 in law enforcement for me. I started as an OSP cadet working over in Eastern Oregon doing fish and game enforcement in Wallowa County, beautiful Wallowa County. I was hired in 2001 at Beaverton, and actually Chief Groshong was my phase 1 FTO. Taught me everything she knew. And I've spent most of my time in the patrol division. I did spend 4 years as the training division sergeant, focused on our firearms program. I was the department range master for those 4 years, and I've done a lot of teaching. I was a patrol lieutenant for the last couple of years, and now this is a brand new, as of a week and a half ago, job as a captain. So excited to be with you. And, I'm married and I have 2 kids. I have a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old. So. Any
Thank
questions?
you, and congratulations on the promotion.
Thank you.
I forgot to congratulate you, Paolo, too, by the way.
Oh,
so.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I'm
Good luck with that.
stoked and freaked out, but yeah, it's gonna happen.
I get it. I get it.
I just want to say too, once upon a time, I took the, it was called the Citizens Academy. Now it's the Community Academy. I'm stoked for whenever that continues again. But Captain Julfs, is it Julfs? Am I saying this correct?
Just take the I out of it and make it one syllable. Julfs.
Captain Julfs, cool.
Yep.
Captain Julfs led a really cool seminar a few times in there. Really funny guy. You probably don't remember me, but I laughed at everything you said with you.
Awesome.
So hopefully you're still doing that when Community Academy opens back up.
Yeah.
Everyone should take it.
Yeah, that's a great pitch, actually, Paolo. And the last thing is I'm taking the spot of Captain Paul Wendell, so who officially retired today. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm just here to say hi, and I know it's been a while since I've visited you all, and thank you for giving me a few minutes. I really don't have much. I did watch last month's meeting, and I know Spencer had some questions about the recently passed police reform legislation. And I sent Paolo, and I think he forwarded it all to you, a document on all the bills and what a synopsis of the bill and what BPD is currently doing in response to that legislation. So I guess I'm just here tonight to answer. I want to be respectful of time, and I don't think I was on the agenda, so I want to be really respectful. And just if anybody has any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you for making yourself available, Chief. When you saw our meeting, our previous meeting, did you get a sense of? I'm blanking on the specific questions. Spencer's really the expert on the legislative piece of it, but did you notice any holes or gaps where the Beaverton Police Department was still working on getting up to speed on the legislature that's been passed, or is that been fairly simultaneous?
It's been fairly simultaneous. We didn't have, there's some things that weren't in our policy that needed to be in our policy, and some bills don't take effect until maybe some January 1, some took effect immediately. But what we want to do is take a really proactive approach, and we made those changes before we had to our policy. And then I sent out a directive listing all the policies and what our new procedures are on that. So the one gap, it's not really a gap. House Bill 2930 that addresses standards concerning law enforcement officer conduct, and that is a commission that's to be brought together to come up with moral standards and conduct for all law enforcement officers. That commission hasn't got their, it hasn't started yet. So I would say if there's one thing that we're not caught up to, it is that House bill. However, we can't, because it's not even put into format yet on those standards. So rest assured that once they have those standards, it will be part of our policy. Any other questions? You guys are letting me off easy.
Spencer?
Thanks, Chief. The other night at council, there was some discussion of a new body called the Chiefs Advisory Board. What is your vision for that? What do you see it? What role do you see it filling?
That was a concept of mine. We need something in place. We want to be as transparent as possible. I thought that might be one avenue that could be looked at by the council and our new city manager. But you were there, I think, for the meeting, and council had their opinions about that. And I think that they're going to come up with something maybe similar, but with a different twist. And again, that's up to them what they come up with. But I just want to, my thought on that was to bring a community group together from different facets of our community. And in that proposal, I said that I would pick. I don't have to pick. I just was trying to come up with a concept. I think the council would probably likely pick who those individuals are. And the purpose behind that was for us to learn, myself and other department members, what's going on really in the community, who we're not reaching, who aren't we reaching, who doesn't understand what we're doing, or what maybe we haven't heard all the opinions on how people feel about us, or what they think we could do to change, to make things better. And so it was kind of a two-way street. I would learn, and then also give the opportunity for community members, other than people who aren't on HVAC or aren't on DAB or don't tune in to the city council meetings, to see what we do and bring that out to widen our message or how we do business to the rest of the community that's not being reached. So that was my, building starting steps, if you will. I know that can evolve, it can change. I fully expect it to, but that's up to the council, the mayor, and the city manager. So all that to say, more to follow on that. I know there's going to be some discussions. I know it's a very high priority of the council, and it's a high priority for the city manager. So we'll see what comes of it. It might be, the advisory board, it might be a full-blown oversight board, whatever that may look like. So more to follow on that, Spencer. Thanks for asking.
So this would be in addition to a potential oversight group, or along or simultaneously with that?
It could be simultaneous, although when the council initially heard, that was kind of discussed last Tuesday night. I don't think a lot of the council members were on board with a simultaneous the advisory board and an oversight board at the same time. But again, it was very fresh to them, and it was their first conversation. So it could go many different ways and directions, but I look forward to it. I want to be as transparent as possible, whatever that takes. Kathy?
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. My understanding was that the advisory board was for you to be listening to, not to be spreading a message, but advisory boards are people you listen to, Chief, and that several council members considered the oversight board to be separate, to be guiding the council or bringing information to the council, so would be answerable to the council and not you. Okay, that was my understanding. And I'm so hoping, Stephanie and Joy, that we might have more time to go over this at a later date. It came a bit late this afternoon, and as I looked over it, I saw a couple of things that I don't think were part of the legislation, but were interpretive. And I would love for us, because we've been working on policing, I would love for us to look over it, and maybe as we're looking over it, as we did in the listening sessions, if we could perhaps have as much a discussion with police as listening. That's what I'm hoping.
Yes, Kathy, thank you. And I do believe it's an ongoing conversation. This is fresh information for all of us.
Thank you. And I just threw in the chat too that we actually have time allotted later to discuss this further, specifically the discussion that council had on BPD oversight or chief advisory oversight. So thank you again, folks, for being here. I'm going to turn it over. Oh, we have one more question. Let's go ahead and wrap up with Dori for the questions on this piece, and then we'll go ahead and turn it over to Amy.
Actually, it's not a question, it's just a statement. We got the document at 4:24 p.m. So I'm trying to be as transparent as possible. I have been working all day, so we have not had a chance to look at this document. So I won't be ready later in this discussion to quickly look at a document, because I think this is a document that may take time. And I think that's what Kathy was, where Kathy was going. So I wonder if we might schedule on a future agenda, like next month, for example, a revisitation of the document.
That sounds like a wise call to me. I'm feeling a bit at a loss here too, and I'm also concerned because we have Mr. Kirby speaking here in just a little bit, and we're already running off of time a little bit. Joy?
I'm wondering if he can walk us through it, and then and that would be part of his, I don't know, if he could walk us through it, that'd be great.
So just for clarification, the documents that I sent earlier, I believe are for the the House and Senate bills response and policy updates there. The discussion that we put on the agenda for the oversight committees was in response to the roundtable that council had on, was it last week? I think last week. So by all means, go forth with whichever direction you want. Just wanted to make that clarification.
My mistake, sorry. It's been a long day.
Thank you for that clarification, Paolo. I don't know how many of us have had a chance to be up to date on what happened at the roundtable discussion either. So maybe that, just bringing that to the forefront becomes a part of that, to let people know that that information is available. They can see what that discussion was about, and those of us who have seen it can point out some concerns or some areas that others may want to look at. But certainly we don't want to make anything definitive today since people haven't had a chance to absorb the information. Okay, I think Councilor Hasan has some additional announcements, and Paolo, I'll let you continue in that direction. Dori, did you have some more that?
Cool. Yeah, I think we had Amy Browning up next, and then we'll go ahead and I'll vacate my time and we'll go to Councilor Hasan.
Okay, yeah, so for the Mayor's Youth Advisory Board, we start our year in 2 weeks, but our work has kind of begun. We're co-hosting a Youth Climate Town Hall on September 10th with the Oregon League of Conservation Voters. So we're doing some work there with promoting that. It'll be a really good town hall. I think we're going to be asking some questions to Senator Ron Wyden. So it'll be a really good learning experience, and we're hoping for a good turnout. Yeah, other than that, we're really just planning for the year, and I'm really excited to get everything started. Oh, also, the school year is coming up, and I know a lot of people are a little bit nervous with COVID and everything there, but we're really just looking to see how that turns out, I guess, with BSD. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely keep us in the loop about that, Amy. Thanks for bringing that up. Oh, Stephanie?
Yeah, Amy, could you give us a read on how I'm not asking you to speak for every student in Beaverton, but do you have a read on how students are feeling about the COVID situation?
Yeah, I know I come from a family with immunocompromised people, and so it makes me a little bit more nervous going back to school. I was actually at Westview today because I'm part of like a welcoming committee for 9th graders, and that was interesting just to see kind of how administration is going about like trying to separate people. To me, in terms of like lunches and taking masks off there, it doesn't seem super doable in terms of distancing and stuff like that. So I will update you on how that goes next month when everyone's in the cafeteria, just because I know normal years, like everyone is packed in like sardines. So I don't know how we're going to space out. But yeah, it is a little bit more concerning, especially with no like vaccination percentages being reported or anything like that. So I would appreciate more of that from Beaverton School District, but I think they're just focusing on guidance from the state. So yeah, that's my read on it.
Thank you so much.
Councilor Hasan actually just messaged me in the chat that she is down to go after Bill Kirby. I will do the same thing. So Stephanie, if that's cool, we'll just go after Bill Kirby.
That's great. Thank you. Mr. Kirby? Oh, can you unmute? There we go.
I've got too many screens up, so I can't see the very far left corner. Yeah, I'm here as long as you want me here. So, I mean, if you want to move ahead, go ahead. Or I realize, I think Paolo was saying that you were started a little late. That's fine. I'm Bill Kirby, City Attorney for City of Beaverton. I'm here to basically answer your questions that you have about this trespass agreement. Paolo, what time did you get the that new draft out? I mean, is this something that people have had a chance to look at, or is it at 4:30 you got a hold of it?
I got it. I sent it out the same time that I got the stuff from Chief. So I think that was like 4:15, 4:30.
Okay. So yeah, yeah. Okay, so I realize you have a document that you haven't really probably had a chance to look at. So let me just kind of step back, and then I want to kind of just make it your questions for me. I looked at the 4 pages of questions you had. I listened to some of the YouTube videos and got a sense of where we're at. Took a look at the old agreement. It was something that we could improve on. It's an agreement that needed to have, I just call it periodic review. Every form in the city of Beaverton, it's just occasionally you need a fresh set of eyes. I did agree with some of the comments that it was too legalistic and, try to make it more user-friendly. I also considered the issue about, there was the indemnification and the waiver. And I'm not sure I think in the end, here's what happened. We did a little bit of a search. No one has ever complained about these agreements. We've never needed to rely on those clauses. So whether you think they're appropriate or not appropriate, they have no bearing on the agreement, really. So in the draft that I have sent to you, and again, I apologize, you probably haven't had a chance to read it. We took those out. Maybe we're looking at it a little differently, but I don't see a high need for those provisions. And I did look at some of the other agreements that are out there on the web, and you don't typically see those clauses in there. I understand the reasons for them from the city's perspective, but I do think that the agreement can function without much risk to the city without those clauses in there. So they're gone. There was one comment that was made, and then I'll be quiet about the agreement and we answer questions about why this clause about no special treatment. And when you look at the agreement, you'll see that that clause has been revised, but it's still in there basically. And I want to explain why that is. There's a line of cases, and they're not very common, but there is a line of when police officers act to try to prevent crime, they're not responsible for the crime that happens. You don't get to sue the police officer typically because someone did burglare your house. You don't get to say to the police department, you're here as a police department, you're supposed to prevent this crime. You didn't prevent my crime, therefore you're negligent and you owe me money for the burglary. There's another line of cases though, where you end up in a special relationship, and then all of a sudden you do have liability. And I'll give you an example, and it's just one example, there are others, but it was a 911 call, and the dispatcher, admittedly not a police officer necessarily, but the dispatcher told the person, just stay put, you'll be safe, just hide, be quiet, you'll be safe, just stay put. Well, things didn't work out well, and this person got hurt badly. And the lawsuit about, well, you told me to stay instead of flee. You told me to stay put and be quiet. They allowed that claim to come forward, and there was liability for the dispatch agency because that was considered a special relationship. And what we're trying to do here in this agreement is to explain to people, there is no special relationship. We'll enter into this trespass agreement, but that isn't a guarantee that no one's going to trespass on your property. So that's why that's there. And yes, I agree that it's not commonly seen in some other agreements, but part of what I'm trying to do in this shorter version is make sure that people understand the nature of the relationship. And I don't want someone to get a false sense of security that somehow they are in a special relationship with the police and they'll protect them against any trespass or any crime happening on the property. We can talk more about that if you want to, but that was one of the comments. Again, generally speaking, tried to make it simpler, more direct. It is now, I mean, there's a lot of white space. It is 2 pages plus a 3rd page, which is the criteria for exclusions. Oh, there you go. Thank you very much. Yeah, if you go, so you can see, if you go up to the 1st page, some of the comments about why is it on a letterhead and other things we've all tried to address. So I'm going to stop there. You have questions. I think last time you didn't get a chance to ask all the questions that you had. So I'll open up the floor to any questions you have about the agreement. Joy?
Thank you. And thank you very much for coming and for being patient with our tardiness in getting to you. So I appreciate what you're saying about not having any special relationships. So my question is, when it was presented to us 2 months ago initially, it was explained, I think it was Lieutenant Stellingwerf explained that this was shopped to business owners in response to a planned Black Lives Matter protest. My question is, if it's only selectively being shopped to certain business owners and not sent to all of them, how could you not then infer that there is some sort of special relationship? If not everybody gets this, then that's special.
Well, a couple of things. One is, I mean, the agreement, the program, I'll call it, it has been around for more than a decade. You know, so the one instance that I think that you're relating to, and I think essentially if you talk to the police who are still here, you know, they'd say, well, we did conflate 2 things. Maybe it would have been better just to have talked about this is the route and not to say, and if, by the way, here's a trespass agreement. But the trespass agreement program has been in existence for decades. And I don't have a read on how many agreements we have in place, but I know it's a number of them. I don't think it's a special relationship. It's available to anyone who wants to enter into the relationship. So yeah, but go ahead.
So how would someone know about this if you didn't send it to every business?
Well, okay, I think that might be a more operational question for police in terms of how they promote it, but it's been promoted through the community policing division. And I think it's also something that you can find on the city's website, police department section. Although I don't think that it's, I'll just stay quiet in terms of how prominent, how easy one can find it. But it is like many other programs. There's a program the police have that if you're going on vacation, you can let them know, and they will, to the extent that they have the resources, drive by and just see if everything's okay at the house. Again, it's not a special relationship. It's not a guarantee that nothing will happen to your house while you're on vacation. And it is available to anybody to the extent resources are there. But that form is something that's available on the website. So I don't think it is a special relationship with the people that sign up for it, and how it gets promoted and people made aware of it is more of an operational question I think the police need to answer than I can answer for them. Does that answer your question, or only halfway?
So when a business signs this, do they have duty to act, or do they not have duty to act?
Duty to act meaning, tell me more about what you mean by that.
A duty to act. So they would have a duty to actually keep an eye on that business, and if they see something weird, go and deal with it, absent being dispatched to something else. Pardon me?
The business owner or the police?
The police have duty to act.
No, I don't think that's, I think that's actually what we're saying is that to the extent they get the same level of service as everyone else in the community. That's the importance here, is that there is no special obligations coming with this. To the extent that the police, they're not going to, for example, necessarily stop by every of the businesses that have been signed up and patrol them specially. That's not something that happens. If they do get a call and they find that, oh, there's some people that are started a fire in the back or something like that, there's things that they can do now in the middle of the night and know that they don't have to trace down the owner. Who's the person in charge at 2 in the morning on a Sunday? That's the real intent behind these trespass agreements. And as you know, they're common in a lot of jurisdictions nowadays.
They are very common. Yeah, I wonder why you couldn't just say that then.
Well, I mean, they're common, but I will say that the version that I've kind of recommended, it's a draft and it's open to discussion, but I'm not one to just pick something off the internet and say that's the form we'll go with. And I really feel like what I'm trying to do here is make sure that both sides of the equation understand what the program is. And I don't want to have a dispute about, well, you told me that if I signed up for this, I get special protection. And like, you'll be a private security agency for me. Like, no, that's not what we're doing. We're not doing that. And if you don't find value in the program because we can't provide you that service, it's fine, don't sign up. But you'll get the same police protection as everyone else does in the community. And again, that's typically not a special relationship. You don't get to sue the police department when your home gets burglarized. Yeah. Okay, anyone else? Whose dog, by the way? I'm just curious.
That's my new puppy, and she likes it when I talk.
Okay. Okay, Catherine French. Yes.
Thank you. I think I have an easy question and then a comment. And the easy question, I love the criteria page because I had a lot of questions about operationalizing conduct constituting grounds for exclusion. And here, there's just a lot of specifics here. And thank you so very much. What if a person is threatening another customer, racial slurs, and so on? Does this, you mentioned some codes and a law or two here. Oops, not there. Okay. What then? That's my question. And then I'll give, if there's time, I'd love to give another comment.
Okay, yeah, no, I have, like I say, I got all the time you need. I'm just going through the list myself to, on the issue of engaging in fighting violent, tumultuous, or threatening behavior is probably the area there. And then there's also the unreasonable noise. If someone starts to just shout at the, doesn't matter what they're saying, if they start to make that type of, no one can be in the building because they're making so much noise. But this is it's a complicated area with free speech and what goes too far. So you're looking for threatening behavior is what what are the words that are being said that create a threat? And I think we can all come up with examples where reasonable people would say, that sounds like a threat. And that would be the area where you'd say, we don't have to take the threats that you're putting out, but what words constitute a threat is something that you will see argued in a court oftentimes. Circumstances matter. I'll give you a couple of simple examples, but if I say something on the telephone to you about, for example, or to a person, not you, please, but I'm so mad I can punch you in the nose. And on the telephone, that's not a threat because I can't punch anyone on the telephone. Doesn't happen. Put me face to face within arm's reach, and I'd say I'm going to punch you in the nose. That can be a threat. So that's an example where circumstances matter in terms of same words spoken. maybe even the same intensity in the voice. But the fact that it's I'm within arm's length of you, one time makes it a real threat, and the other time it's more rhetorical. So that's the kind of example of where what will be considered threatening behavior, violent behavior, fighting behavior is going to be very fact dependent. But no, you had another question though. What is it?
Yeah, and I'm glad you gave that example of somebody yelling, because that's so often a mental health crisis. And I'm so glad that we have a mental health team to address it instead of a person getting cited for that mental health crisis now. And I think the police are really getting trained in that. And free speech was my concern, because this came out. The businesses were approached, and one of the police said it was now because of a demonstration planned. And it seemed to a human rights person that peaceful demonstrations are civil rights, and that the presence of a demonstration doesn't mean everybody get ready, we may arrest somebody.
Right.
Yeah, so how does that happen? How do those decisions get made for that timing of it?
I think that's going to be, so yeah, I see the chief has her hand up, so I'm going to let her have the floor first. Go ahead, Brenda. And you're on mute.
My computer. Okay. So speaking back, Kathy, I think what this is referring to is the protest. I think it was in May on I think it was a Sunday night or a Tuesday night. People have the right to protest and march and practice their First Amendment rights. We do not want to interfere with that whatsoever. In fact, we applaud that. Now, unfortunately, when that protest that we're speaking of was advertised, the social media indicated that there was going to be a counter protest, and that there was some threats in this by the counter protesters of doing harm and violence to Beaverton businesses. So the community services team went out to just let the businesses know that, hey, this protest is coming. People have the right to march, and they get their First Amendment rights, just like you and I and everybody else. But unfortunately, as you can see, as we've seen over the last year and a half, there are those individuals who don't want to be peaceful, who come to ruin those that are trying to be peaceful and exercise their First Amendment rights. This was simply a tool to those business owners, not for the march or the protest. It was to be used in case of the fact that someone came into their business to do nothing but harm. So I think there was some miscommunication to you all at one of the meetings about exactly what was said to the businesses, or maybe how it was portrayed. And I apologize for that. And I hope that helped clears things up just a little bit on one of the aspects of the trespass agreement. Does that make sense, Kathy?
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for clarifying, Chief.
Okay. Yeah, I apologize for any miscommunication or misunderstanding if it wasn't clear. I am sorry for that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sorry. Spencer, I thought you'd have a question for me. No? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions for our city attorney, Mr. Kirby?
And I know you haven't had a chance to look at that draft, so when you do, maybe take it back at a next meeting and give us feedback. It is a draft. It's possible that something would change, but I think it's probably more in format than it would be in substance, unless I hear, back from you, and we kind of work through if there's any changes that still need to be made or anything like that. But the program's a good program. Like any program, it can be made better. I think essentially by your questions, getting the revision of the agreement's probably a good thing. And I hope that it's something that you think of as, well, that's a much better than it was. And I don't know whether I've addressed all the issues that were brought up in the questions. I think Joy, you may have put that together. But if I haven't, then just let me know and I'll try to answer those things.
I appreciate that. I like this one much better.
Yeah, it is better, I have to say. I mean, the last one was, when I looked at it, it was just like, if nothing else, it's too legalistic. I mean, it can be made more plain, but I think there's the indemnity and the waiver. There's no need for them, in my opinion. It's a minuscule risk to the city in practice, is how I would describe it. And if it makes it complicated for people to understand, it probably should be taken out on balance. Okay, if there's nothing else, going once. All right, I'll let me know if there's any follow-up. I'll be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, sincerely.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming and being willing to field our questions and also being willing to make modifications where those are needed. Our commission is very much about the edification of our community, and that we just really appreciate your openness to that.
Okay, no, and like I say, it's better. I mean, we're heading in the right direction, and in 10 years we'll probably be doing this again, because it'll be change of circumstances, and all of a sudden this agreement, it's dated. So anyway, but thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Good night. Thank you again.
Good night.
Okay, I found that helpful. I hope my fellow commissioners did also. I also encourage everyone to take a little bit of time at leisure to look through the document. I have not looked through it yet. I've been working all day before I came here, but I'm appreciative that our questions are leading to edifications to the program, and we'll continue to make sure that we're vigilant in making sure that this can be the best program that it possibly can be. I do want to circle back to Councilor Hasan and also Paolo. I know you have city announcements.
Yeah, sure. And I loved the way that all went down. Just to re-elevate something that Bill said earlier. Fresh pair of eyes always makes this better. I don't think that's exactly how he said it, but I mean, y'all showed that, right? So shout out to, I think Kathy is the one who first introduced this and brought this to a lot of our attentions before. A lot of that, the legal analysis and the questions that Bill was referring to, Joy put together. And I know that a lot of you contributed to that as well. So please keep holding us all accountable and making us better. So those are not my city updates. Let me grab them real quick. Yeah, the first part of the city updates, well, there is a surge in the COVID-19 and the Delta variant. And so I won't actually regurgitate everything that's on these updates, but on them are some numbers that you can call and some websites that you can visit for updates on those. And so what I'll do instead is I will send those to all of you. The other one, y'all got a little bit of a announcement about this already, and I think you're already in the know, but there is a special election for the Fall Voters Forum. So it's for City Council Position 1, and it's going to be on Tuesday, September 21st. Let's see. It's going to be hosted by BCCI, so the Beaverton Committee for Community Involvement, and it's going to be a live virtual event on Thursday, September 9th at 7 p.m. I know there's also going to be interpretation because I reserved interpretation for it. Where's the details for that? Okay, you can go to beavertonoregon.gov/votersforum to access the Spanish versions and the English versions. But if you want to watch live on TV, it's channel 30 for English and channel 28 for Spanish. So again, I'm going to send these details over, but those are the general details. Of course, there's also a link that I'll send over for the ballot drop-off sites. And yeah, the last thing I will just share for general city updates is September 10th through September 19th is Beaverton Welcoming Week. So it's an annual series of events that really highlights and highlights the contributions of immigrants and refugees to this beautiful city that we live in. And so we are supporting events that create opportunities for building relationships and cross-cultural understanding and education. And so I will put a link in the chat for where you could find those events, but I was just talking to Eleni with Eleni's Kitchen today. There's going to be an Ethiopian cooking class that you could actually follow along on Zoom. So she's going to send out all the ingredients and everything that you need for that. Go to the BG Food Cartel. I think it's on the 18th. There's going 18th at 10 a.m. No, sorry, at 12. There's going to be different cultural dances. What are they called? Teachers, choreographers, there it is. Choreographers who are going to be showing and explaining different cultural dances and their cultural histories. And then they'll be inviting people up to actually learn the dances with them. So there's going to be some Indian dances, some traditional Tahitian dances. Those are just the few that pop to my head right now, but there's a whole bunch of events. And if you have events in the community that you'd like to share, you could upload them to the Beaverton website that I'm going to put in the link in just a little bit. Any questions before I turn it over to Councilor Hasan? Joy.
Yes, I'm curious of the languages the Welcoming Week Lit comes in, because I have a new neighbor, a lady at my very favoriteest restaurant, just came here and she speaks Arabic.
Cool. Yeah, so the physical promotions that we're putting out are English and Spanish. We did not translate this year's documents in Arabic, but we certainly can. Technically, any document you see, any publication from the city, you can actually request for those to be translated in quote unquote any language. I say that because there's a lot of indigenous languages that we simply don't have access to. And so I actually coordinate that program. So I'd be more than happy to get that document translated for, it sounds like you said your neighbor, if it's something that you think that they need.
Well, she's at Mediterranean, and a woman my age who came here from Arabia. She's incredibly brave. And I'm just trying to reach out to her. Language is a problem.
Yeah, well, yeah, language is a beautiful problem because there's a lot of things that different languages can contribute to a space for sure. That also reminded me that there's going to be, I forget which day, but you'll have to see it on the calendar. At the BG Food Cartel, we rented out that inside area and all the garage doors will go open up. So it's open air, and different Mediterranean and Arabic restaurants owners who are going to come to that space. They're going to supply a whole bunch of appetizers and desserts and talk about their experience and journey in as a minority business owner to build up shop, and also just the cultural relevance of the food that you'll be eating. So check out that one too, that I forget what day it is, but it'll be on the website. Any more questions before we turn it over to Councilor? Cool. Councilor Hasan, it's all you.
Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I am going to do a little PSA on COVID since Paolo brought it up. If you have not, and you can, please make sure you're getting vaccinated. And if you've got some friends that you can talk to that need some help, whether it's getting connected, making the appointment, whatever it is, the surge really is making an impact. And a lot of you know I was a former high school teacher. And so my anxiety about school return next week is on the max. I have a 10 and a 7-year-old. So just kind of, the more of us that are vaccinated, it helps. That being said, masks are also very important. We've been practicing with my 2.5-year-old how to wear a mask. I wish it hadn't come to this, but it has. And so are just encouraging you all to mask when you're out and about, specifically in indoor spaces, specifically when you can't be 6 feet apart, and then social distancing, of course. We are going to see a surge. I believe the last stuff that I saw said it was peaking in the next couple of weeks. So we just, it really does matter to have that mask on when you're out and about. So that's my little COVID PSA. The new city manager started last Monday, Jenny, and I had a little bit of time that I was able to spend with her. And I did spend some of that time talking a little bit about HRAC and what y'all have been doing and the recommendations. I think that this group put together a really clear and articulate, well thought out group of recommendations, and it was presented to us in a time of massive change, with sort of an interim city manager, with the city council not necessarily knowing how to operate with an interim city manager, with a new mayor. And so we have not been able to really deliver the way that I would like. And so I did ask her to please take a read at the recommendations and try to come back to us with, us as in council, what does moving forward look like? What does building trust with our community look like? What does acting on some of these look like? And so I know she's working very closely with the chief and kind of looking at what that looks like. That being said, it's only day 10 for her, so it won't happen right away, but she is very much aware that this is something that I would like to make sure that we're working on and that we're talking through. So want to share that with you. I'm really excited about her. We had our police oversight conversation. I won't talk about that because it's in the agenda, so I'll wait till that comes. We did also have a roundtable on ARPA, and just to give you a little bit of feedback, the United States gave this ARPA funding. It's American, I always screw it up. It's either relief or recovery, and it's funds to cities and municipalities to help with the recovery post-COVID. And so we had a presentation. We're looking to get about $16 million. We do have enough of a deficit within the city that a lot of it could go to the city. But the roundtable, we went around and talked about different things. A couple of things that I talked about just kind of for visibility for you all was participatory budgeting. If you Google it, it's this idea where you say, hey, here's $1 million, community figure out what to do with it. I'd really love to see us potentially introduce something like that. And another thing that I talked about, which is near and dear to my heart, is in case of a school shutdown, what does it look like for the city, the school district, and the county to maybe work together and provide some sort of enrichment and or opportunities. And then there were other ideas. I don't know that there were any concrete ideas. It was a roundtable, so it was super sort of beginner in terms of what people were talking about. On a side note, a couple of folks had reached out and said that the meeting went from a work session to a roundtable. I'm trying to understand more about that, but I assure you that Jenny and our council is committed to as much transparency and accountability in terms of our meetings, and information on those meetings is going to take some time for some of those things to start happening. But Jenny, who is really the administrative head now of the city and will make a lot of the operational decisions around what happens, knows that these things are of utmost priority for our city. So I'll pause and see if y'all have any questions.
The council meeting was not open for public comment, and we understood that that's a traditional format for August. Can you enlighten us a little bit about that, about why the public comment period was not available for that meeting?
Sure. So it's my understanding, and I'm new too, but that roundtables do not typically offer public comment. Roundtables are really informational for counselors. Here's some information we're presenting it to you. The reality is that was not, it was information, and some people might have interpreted it as a work session. So maybe there should have been an opportunity for public comment. We are, and when I say we, Jenny very much knows that we have these what's a roundtable, what's a work session, what allows public comment, what doesn't. And so those conversations are happening. It's going to take a little bit of time to mesh out what those look like, but we are working towards being super open and honest. And I think one of the reasons I'm really excited about Jenny is just her desire to be engaged with community and listen to community and her communication style. So I see that coming. Again, it's day 10. So it's going to take a little bit of time for some of those things to work themselves out.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Councilor Hasan?
Just a quick comment. I was told by a couple of other councilors that the last meeting of the month is often, not always, but often reserved for roundtable discussions. So that's traditional or habitual or something.
It's the first time I've heard that kind of before, but it's like now seeping in. So we have some work to do as a council to work through what our norms are, but also to make sure that those are being communicated to the public.
Okay, well, thank you so much for keeping us updated and in the loop. Paolo, were there any other announcements or considerations we needed to take into account?
None for me.
Okay. Then let's discuss, and since we still have Councilor Hasan close by, we may have some more questions for our section on the oversight discussion that happened at council. As was previously noted, there wasn't a public comment opportunity at this last council meeting, and one of the considerations that has come up that there seems to be some concern around is the oversight committee for the police department. That's something that we have talked about at HRAC last year, and also have had varied opinions on it. I think that part of the consensus, as Kathy articulated, was that the oversight committee would be outside of the police department and would be set by members that are not associated with the police department. And so there was some concern that if the police chief was a part of that decision-making process or a part of setting the up the oversight committee, that would not be doing the proper due diligence and allowing the police department to have the insights from outside of the department. Did you have any thoughts on that, Councilor Hasan, or has the council put any considerations toward that?
Yeah, so from what I left that meeting with, and it's always interesting to hear what different people leave meetings with, but what I left and hoped for and am expecting is that that Jenny will sit down with the chief. They're going to come up with what this advisory thing looks like. Maybe it meets what some of us want. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe there's a simultaneous double advisory and oversight. But until Jenny gets that time to dig in with the chief, I don't know that we're going to get much. The other piece that Jenny did share, and this is super not fresh, but some of the work that she did in her former city was around data and transparency and like having people having access to data around what's happening. And she already is seeming to be working on that. I don't know what that will look like, for us, but just the way that she was talking about it, it just kind of solidified my excitement around what I know that she will start to bring in this work. So they are probably going to come to us again into another meeting and present something at which point we will discuss it. I don't know that we know when that will be, given how she's getting caught up and what's going on.
Thank you. That's encouraging. As was noted earlier, many of us have strong feelings that the oversight for the police department would need to be an external body, both for the benefit of the community, but also for the benefit of the police department. That's quite a heavy burden to have to carry, to provide your own oversight. And that isn't something that I think we should rely upon. And I want to reiterate that many of us on this commission feel really strongly that it needs to be an outside entity. Joy?
Besides anyone's personal opinions about the police, it's a community, and whatever is in place for public safety does need to be viewed as valid by the community. There's a story in India, if you're driving, and there's a light and one person goes through it, there's a police officer there, and then 5 people run the light, and 100 people run the light, 1,000, 1,000,000 people run the light, the police are irrelevant. It becomes irrelevant. And so it's really important, regardless of our personal feelings or anyone's personal feelings, right or wrong as they are, that the community at large view it as valid, and or it will just be ignored. And we don't really want that. Being next door to Portland, we see it, and that's not really a great thing we want. That's not our goal. So I just wanted to say that into the record, that regardless of anyone's personal feelings, what we want is a good community, then it needs to be viewed as valid by the community. And the subject matter expert in whatever subject cannot be objective. They cannot supervise. They can't disconnect their expertise to see it objectively. So it's really important to get it right.
And I would respond with 2 comments. One, I don't know if the council will feel like that this is something that council would do, like that we would somehow look at policy and oversight, and I don't have an opinion. I'm sure that different councilors have different opinions. So that's part 1. And then part 2 is I do get a sense that anything related to personnel or discipline, that is probably not going to be something that this would do. It would be much more of a policy making body if it were to be an advisory or whatever. I don't want to say the word advisory, scratch that word, oversight. But I don't know where council lands on, do we want as councilors to own this sort of oversight, or do we want people to own this oversight? Kathy.
I was really encouraged to hear 2 of the council members talk about being knowledgeable of policy in many areas of the city and working on it, and feel like they have neglected policing and are fairly ignorant of policy there. And it sounded like they were determined to do a better job of it. And that was just very encouraging to hear.
Thank you. I'm sure we will have continued discussion around this topic as more decisions come to light. We're very much in the preliminary discussions of this. I understand that council isn't making any definitive decisions, but I think that it needs to be on HRAC's in our awareness and our consciousness that this is being discussed, and that it would be important for us to have a voice in how that process comes together. Spencer?
Councilor, I heard a passing comment earlier this evening that intimated or just directly said that any decision about police oversight or establishing a police oversight board or commission, that's something that council can't do on their own, that they would have to that would have to be voted on by voters in the city. Did I hear that correctly?
I haven't heard that.
Did anybody else hear that tonight?
Kathy?
Spencer, it was in the paper that the chief and police put together. It wasn't spoken out loud. It was on the first page, responding to Senate Bill 621.
Got it. I knew I saw it somewhere.
Yeah.
Is that an arbitrary statement of hers, or is there in fact an ordinance that defines the kind of public bodies that have to be decided on by voters rather than council?
That's a good question. I'll be honest, I don't know. I do know that this year we started the Climate Action Task Force, and that was just as simple as, I don't know, I think it was an ordinance that came in front of us. So we knew we wanted it, it happened. I think, Spencer, if it got really operational or particular or detailed or just too sticky, I could see somebody making an argument that maybe that needs to go to the voters. So I think it would be about the language and or the purpose to make it go through. In our discussion on that Tuesday, there was some back and forth, but the impression that I got, if there was an oversight committee that was not directed by the police, that it would go through our traditional boards and commission sort of vetting process, which is, and I think I said it, I was like, oh, I just got my card, sign up for a board or commission. It could, if that were the route that council wanted to take.
Yeah, all the boards and commissions have been established by ordinance. None of them have been established by referendum or or by initiative. So anyway, I was curious about that. Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Okay, thank you so much, Councilor Hasan, for your insights. And again, I'm really grateful that we have such an astute group of people that can contribute and make sure that our community continues in its edification. Joy, could you take over the next piece of and give us a report on the Exploratory Committee?
Right. So as you know, in our recommendations that we put together last year, which we're still waiting to have read into the record of the City Council, our fourth recommendation was to discontinue having police officers in schools. Of course, that's been discussed a lot by the City Council, and I found out that the city and the school district work together with that. It's funded partially from the city and some of it's from the school district, though I haven't seen those agreements. But the City Council put together the city put together a request for bids to have an outside organization come in and assess whether about the police officers in schools. And I was asked to represent us at HRAC. I saw Dori there too. We got 3 bids, and over the weekend, we individually read the proposals and scored them. And then last night we had a meeting where we went through our scoring and talked about how we felt about each one of the proposals. And the scores came in, it wasn't even really very close. So it was the third one was that it's called, Dori, help me, what's it called?
Actually, sorry, but based on the guidelines that we were given with the RFP process, we're not allowed to even have this discussion. So I just want to clarify that. And the best update is we've met.
Okay. We met. We had a really long discussion. It was great to see everybody. Dori was there. So it's moving forward.
Okay, we'll look forward to future updates. Then as transparency is allowed then. So thank you, Joy. I appreciate you taking the time to do that. Dori and Brittney, we would love to get some updates on the community safety work and specifically that art project. It's really exciting.
I may have thrown a typo in the chat, but just a little background, that the school district has very specific guidelines for their RFPs, their requests for proposals. And since the school district managed this, that's why I just said that. So their process will be, once they have information, they will share it. And then they will let us know if we can share it. So just to clarify on that point. And moving on to the art project, first just want to recognize the folks that are working on that right now. So that would be Sabdi, Britt, Lisa, who's not with us, and Paolo has been at every meeting. And we have had officers off and on at different meetings. So they have not been at our last couple of meetings, representatives from the police department, but we are moving along. So tonight, I'm sorry, I'm gonna pull up a link here. I'm putting a link in the chat, and it is the form for signing up. So Sabdi did a ton of work, and Sabdi is so grateful to you and Lisa for setting this up. This form lists all the opportunities that you would have in September if you choose to volunteer and facilitate the discussions amongst community members about their experiences with policing and community safety. So take a look at the form. It has several dates on it. Ask for some information like your phone number, which we will not be sharing, but just for us so that we know, and your current email address, the easiest ones to reach you, and your first name and last name. And then it lists the dates. And if you are able to sign up for any of those, please do go ahead and do that. We will try to have 2 people each time the art pop-up happens at the locations that are listed. So the artist is working right now, Susan, and she should be done hopefully by next week, it sounds like, with the actual art project. So we'll be able to take pictures of that and send it to you all. She got back to me today, and some folks on the committee probably got my email already about Susan Charnquist being close, and it looks beautiful. She sent me a couple of pictures without paint, but I didn't want to show them to you because they're kind of desolate looking without any kind of paint on them yet. So it looks like we're ready to go forward. I'm excited about our process. When you sign up, Paula will take care of confirming for you, and you'll also get some guidelines, looking at our time, some guidelines for how to engage, right? We want to make sure that we're giving the same kind of messaging to everybody. So there's a script and a little guideline to go with it. There'll also be supplies. So you'll have the art piece, supplies, including the cards for data collection, pens, basically a box of things to use, and some stickers that I ordered today, folks, to give out to folks who fill out, so that there's a give and a take. And then you'll set up, and one of us from the committee will probably show up to help you get started and go through those guidelines. And you'll get those guidelines when Paula confirms for you as well. Any questions? I know I did that in about 2 minutes. I'm trying to keep us chugging along. Sabdi, Britt, anything that we should add? Spencer, please go ahead.
This really isn't about the project. It's more about how to process information. Dori, you posted something in the chat. How am I supposed to listen to what you have to say while I'm reading something in the chat? I don't handle multiple things like that very well. So what do people actually do in Zoom when all this information is posted in the chat?
would anybody like to help with their perspective? And Spencer, what I oftentimes do, if I'm having a hard time talking and watching what's going on in the chat, I just listen and then I go back to the chat later when I have a moment. We'll also make sure the link goes out to you as well. So I was just taking the 2 minutes that I had to make sure that the link got into the chat for those people who might be multitaskers and can look at both. And then we will, of course, resend it. So thank you for pointing that out, Spencer. Appreciate you. Any questions? Sabdi, Britt, anything to add? So if you look at the document, if you go into the form, you'll see that most of the dates are in September and many of them coincide with Welcome Week and other events. Yeah. Pretty simple form. You just check off which ones. The TBD means that it's to be determined. So those are ones that may or may not happen. Paul, if you could page up a little bit. And then you would just fill in the information. If it has a red star by it, it's just saying it's required. And you absolutely cannot break this form. All you do is submit at the end. Thanks, Paolo. You can stop sharing, I think. So as I said, I've already sent that link to Paolo along with a guide, so he can send it out after our meeting. I know you've gotten a lot of materials this evening. So with that, Stephanie, I'm turning it back over to you.
I think that Sabri has a question or a comment.
I do. So I was just going to quickly add that I'm excited for us to finally get this started. And BPD, did get back to me and promised me a date for the Community Safety Center by end of the week. So
fabulous.
Hopefully that'll come through.
Yay.
Thank you all for your work on this, Jared.
So just expectations for facilitation, it sounds like that will be clarified and we would be given a script, but that it's essentially people walk up, we kind of give them a little spiel, they fill something out. So it's just, I guess I'm just wondering how formal it is.
Yeah, it's not very formal. So the script is really just speaking about the work that we've already done, that HREC has already done, and collaborating and the exploration with the police as the why. And then exposing the questions. And on the cards, the questions are listed. And with the supplies, folks can either draw or they can write. So either way is fine. Either kind of response is fine. So the directions go into what if you have somebody who draws, right? So for example, if we have a 3-year-old who walks up to us and they want to talk to us about community safety and they're going to draw us a picture. As an adult, what I probably want to do initially is just establish relationship with that child, right? So getting down to a child's level, talking with them, having conversation and saying, hey, here are some questions. And you would probably want to walk them through, have them draw the pictures and then take their dictation. I'm doing a whole lot of teacher spiel talk for what we do in early childhood, but this is what it looks like. So you're probably that's why you really need 2 people. If you have a child, that's going to take more time for the interaction. With adults, it may not take as much time for the interaction. Earlier, I believe Joy had talked about translation and interpretation in different languages. So right now, Paolo has printed in Spanish and English. And if we need to print in another language, we will, the cards that we're using for data collection.
Great. Sounds awesome. Thank you.
All right. Great. I hope you all sign up. It's just a great way for us to connect with the community since we haven't tabled a lot this summer, hopefully, with masks and social distancing and sterilizer white pens, we'll be able to have some social contact with some folks in the community. Thanks, everybody.
And I know these dates are coming up pretty soon. I want to say like a week, 2 weeks, something like that from now. Is there a timeline, like when you want people to try to get in there and sign up by?
Yeah, on the form, it actually says sign up by I'm sorry, I'm having to open the form on my screen.
September 8th.
September 8th. Perfect.
You already had it, my bad. Cool.
Great. Other questions, folks? Again, just thank you to all the folks who have been working so hard on this. Thank you, Sabdi. Thank you, Britt, and Lisa, who is not with us tonight because she has some other things to take care of. So, and Kathy, absolutely thank you as well. All right, folks, I turn it back over to you, Steph.
Thank you. I too appreciate all of the additional work that has been done on this, and I encourage everyone to take a look at the form and see if you're able to participate in and support these events. Joy, I know there wasn't an opportunity to speak at the last council meeting, but did you want to give us any updates on lobbying council?
I'll say what I usually say. So I encourage people on Friday, usually the agenda for the following city council meeting comes up. I have not been at the last couple. Last night's was exactly opposite the meeting with the group put together to look at PCOs. So I missed that one entirely. So I would really encourage it if, oh, there wasn't a meeting, so I didn't miss anything, yay. All right, so usually the agenda comes out on Friday. I'm very excited that we have a new city manager, and it seems her style is very different, and I love that. So please take a look at the agenda when it comes up and, you know, reach out. I think y'all have my email address. And if you'd like to say something about what we're doing or something that's important to you, that would be wonderful. The three of chairs had prepared to speak at that roundtable discussion where no one got to speak. So I think we have things prepared, but I'm not sure it's appropriate. And so we're gonna regather and see what direction the city goes. I think at least I've been pretty clear that it's been 9 months since we made our recommendations, and it would be great if they were at least read into the record. So please have something to say, Spencer.
Councilor Hasan, you made a compelling case earlier about the struggle the council was having in January, February, when we actually made our, got on the agenda and got to make our presentation. It's hard to back that up without getting on the agenda. Now that things have slowed down a bit, we have a new city manager, and the mayor's used to being mayor, and could we do it again?
That's a great idea.
Why don't we just
do it again?
When people can actually pay it, when people are focused and can pay attention, and Jenny's there.
I love that. What do you think, Councilor Hasan?
I'm thinking about it. I genuinely think that if we just let Jenny get some time with your recommendations, like and maybe and call me an eternal optimist, that I'd like to see what she comes back with. And one of the comments that I even specifically made was, it's as simple as crafting a response to these recommendations. And so I do believe it's on her radar. I don't know that there is a need for further presenting unless there was something new or different that you all wanted to add. I would like to see what she comes with us, you know, like what she brings to us when she does. And I can certainly try to say that, you know, she knows sooner rather than later. It's totally fine. Sorry, it's like shushing the kids, and this is like real life. So let's live the real life. So I'd like to wait. I can float it by her. But I believe with what I'm seeing and with her style, she'll have the ability to look at this letter and say, yes, yes, no, maybe so, which is a step closer to where we are. I think if there was something new that you wanted to bring to us or something specific that you wanted to talk about outside of that, that would be different.
Yeah, we got something new. What about that isn't in the recommendations? What about inviting her to an HRAC meeting in the very near future and doing the presentation for her?
I am working on it. I'm working on it. I'm talking to their, I think her official assistant is going to be Rachel. I don't know why that's relevant here, but yeah, I'm working on it. I already planted the seed for that. So hopefully we could get her here at some point before the year ends. I will do my best.
Or even a meet and greet, like a Zoom meeting, we could all have coffee and just meet each other.
I think she'll come. I don't think that she won't come. I think that I'm hoping that she'll come once she has a plan and or response to the recommendations. I'd rather her read the recommendations and say, here's what I'm working on, than come without anything. I think she's a highly capable city manager who will look at those recommendations, review those recommendations, and be able to provide what on those recommendations are policy for us as council to decide and what are operational, which are for her to decide. And since I have you, I want to make this really clear. She is the administrative head of the city. If it is an operational issue, if it is related to operations, she is the decision maker. If it is related to policy, that is something that council might sit down and have to talk about and review. And so helping y'all understand that, helping me understand like what in those recommendations are policy and what in those recommendations are operational. And that's important because that changes who you're lobbying to, right? So what you're going to say to Ginny is going to be a little bit different than what you might say to me or another counselor. Does that help explain it?
Yeah, and now there's 3 because they're dealing with the PCOs. So there's only 3. It's all on one page. We made it easy.
I have I'm very optimistic that we will get something sooner. I don't know as soon as you think, but we will get something. And I have literally asked for it. So it will come. I promise. I don't want to promise, but I promise.
And I know Jenny does have interest for sure of coming. We just got to match it up with her very busy calendar. And I will say if tonight showed anything, it's that people are listening. Things don't always move that fast. I'd say in government, they move like molasses actually. But, you know, the trespass agreement did change. The policy BPD policy changes, they're paying attention. And so I just want to encourage y'all to continue with what you already have been doing. And I know that in front of council and the public Tuesday testimony, the public comments, Dori's been exceptional at holding it down. I know Kathy's been there a few times, Spencer, and I think a few others as well. But yeah, there is a little bit of a twist in there, right? This Jenny's here now and definitely paying a lot of attention. So Tuesdays, 6:30, it happens at the very beginning. So please reach out to Joy. Like I said, Joy's been doing exceptional, but 6. Kidding. 6.
And people who are attending our meetings, just putting it out there if you noticed without saying it.
So please reach out to Joy. Love to hear you speak around 6:05.
Thank you. And thank you for continuing to put the attention that this needs towards these important topics. We're doing some fantastic work on HRAC, and the needle is moving. Our concerns are being addressed, and at the same time, there's community outreach that's happening. Members that are working towards that. So, thank you all for being such dynamic members. Spencer, we have you have some comments on external advocacy, and we'd love to hear those.
Just quickly, as you probably are all tired of hearing, I'm on lots of mailing lists because I'm interested in different stuff and I like to know what's going on. And I'm on the mailing list for the Beaverton Chamber of Commerce, or whatever they call themselves. And the last mailing I got, or the email I got, was about their fundraising project to, beautify downtown, and it's a whole downtown thing. And I got to wondering, gee whiz, there's not one single word in their promotional material about diversity and equity and inclusion. And so I got to thinking, gee, why not? Everybody else is talking about that stuff for the most part. So why isn't the business community? And so I asked Paolo if this group, if this commission could do outreach to organizations that aren't the city. And Paolo came back and said, yeah, after he talked to a couple people. So I'm just wondering if we might develop a little side plan for reaching out to the chamber and seeing if we can wheedle our way into their consciousness about our priorities. That's it.
Great, thank you. I'll put in my 2 cents as a commissioner, and that would be, I think if there's a specific thought that we want to share, for example, around diversity and inclusion, I think that may be something we would want to consider. I have concerns about diluting our attention too far, and that would be my only concern around it. But if there's a specific area, or we could make a specific share a specific thought, that may be a wonderful idea.
I wasn't thinking about doing this tomorrow. It was more like, we have another year coming. Well, some of us do. We just put it on our kind of horizon for February, March, April, whatever. Just to have have a cup of coffee and have a one-on-one conversation with somebody about.
It's good to know that our reach can extend there. Kathy?
Yeah, we could always invite a group to come in, send a representative, and let us know what they see as gaps in human rights in our community. And the business group would certainly have eyes everywhere in the community. They might be somebody good to listen to, but if we listen first, that's always a good start.
Thank you. Spencer, any other details we should be conscious of?
Not that come to mind right this second. Thank you. Oh, thanks. Whoever's better at this than I, there it is.
Nice.
Nice, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, Paolo, thanks.
I wanted to open up our last few moments to any members who had thoughts or comments that perhaps didn't have an opportunity to share before we begin to wrap up and conclude our meeting.
It looks like Dori had something.
Dori, please.
Thank you. Just one thing that I wanted to put on folks' radar. 3 years ago, Chris Azokian from the Patricia Research Center came and gave us an initial presentation, and we haven't had him back. And that center is about to be finished. and go live in February, hopefully of 2022. Might we want to invite him back to have a discussion? Because I've noticed that he's been doing a lot of work around hiring, about hiring minority contractors. And I'm using that term because that's a term that's used legally. I would not usually use the word minority. Minority contractors for food service and other things with this center. So I don't know if it might benefit us to encourage and develop a relationship with Chris, as he's the general manager of that center.
Thank you. That's a wonderful consideration. Chris is an extraordinary human being too, so it would be wonderful to get updates about the center and learn about how the Arts Center is going to impact our community. Any other thoughts? Brandon, Mercy? Just thought I'd put you on the spot. Okay. Mercy's laughing at me. That's good. Okay. Well, Paolo, are there any other final announcements that we should take into consideration?
Yeah, you should have already received an email from the neighborhood programs, probably specifically Francisca Rose, if your term is ending here soon. I'm selfish and I would love to see all of y'all back. I know that there's a big overturn this year, like almost half, I think, of HRAC folks. And so I won't point anybody or call anybody out or anything, but if you, I would love to see you back in HRAC. And so please get those applications in if you are interested. I do also know that the recruitment process in general, appointment process is going to be very different this year. The mayor is going to be a lot more involved, and like meetings are going to be, or interviews are going to be reduced to 15 minutes. So a whole handful of logistical changes that are going to be happening this year. And I also probably won't even be around. So I will be leaning on chairs heavily also for that process. But really all I wanted to say here was please do sign up and reapply if you would like to. And if you need a little bug in your ear to tell you to do it, I would love for you all to reapply, and I would love to see you all again here next year.
Wonderful. And if others know of members in the community that would also be interested, please share that information with them as well. I will take this time to wrap up this meeting. I can't believe we're going to end 4 minutes early. That's extraordinary for us. I don't know when that last happened, but thank you, Paolo, for sharing your exciting news that brings joy to all of us. And we know that the world will be a better place very shortly.
I'm looking for housing on the west side if anybody knows of anything for the baby. Shameless plug.
Are you registered somewhere, Paolo?
Am I? Oh yeah, I have a registry. I feel weird sending that thing around. It's like, here, give me stuff.
Where?
We'd like to know. So we're asking, we are soliciting it from you. So please.
If you want my registry, you have to reach out to me directly. I'm not going to send an HRAC wide email. Here's my registry.
Hey, Paolo, is it Babies R Us?
Oh no, I just have a link. Am I supposed to have a registry at a store? I've never done it before.
Is it
Amazon?
Amazon?
Is it on Amazon or where?
I don't know. Sorry.
I would think those were things you should find out shortly, because if people want to be generous with you, I would encourage you at this point in your life to allow that, because
you have to get used to this.
Exhausting.
We want you to drop it in the chat.
Yeah, drop it in the chat.
Could you please put it in the chat? I'm requesting it, and so if you're not doing it, then I guess you're denying my request.
I will send it to you all directly, whoever wants it. I don't feel comfortable putting something for me in the chat to everybody.
Could you put it in the chat for me, and then I can share it in the chat? Let's be quick here.
We have a workaround. Yeah.
Sure. I'm sending it to you now, Stephanie.
Great. So
Thank
glad
you.
we could get there.
Right.
Stick around like the 3 more. We got 3 minutes, people. We're gonna get this. We're gonna get this link out to you here in a sec.
Stephanie, I just forwarded it to you.
Pal, don't forget, man, it takes a village, right?
That's right.
Grandpa
Did
Spencer's
you
coming
email
over.
it to me? You emailed it to me, Paolo?
No, I just sent it to you. It's on my phone. I don't know how to put it on here.
Okay. Okay.
Send it to me too, please.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Good Lord.
You got to get over this, Paolo, because babies are every mom's property here, every parent, grandparent. This
Got
is
it.
how it goes.
Well, you just got it too, Joy.
Great.
There. Boom. Done.
Okay. Okay, getting it from my phone to a chat is beyond my technical capacity, but if someone else is capable, great.
Maybe I should stop this recording.
Yeah, just turn off the recording and then put it in the chat.
It's okay.
Since
actually
we're
don't use
over.
it on my phone either. So I'm sorry.
Can you turn off the recording?
Okay, here we go. I'm gonna do this.
Thank you all for joining this 8-track meeting. We will see you next month.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Be well.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Be safe.